Well, the St. Louis Cardinals have made their first official moves of the offseason under Chaim Bloom. Not a lot of flashy things today, but I think it is interesting. Tells you a little bit of the state of the organization. Uh, Interesting reflection moments on guys they've let go of, an interesting name added to the 40-man roster. And then this does kind of set up the rest of the offseason in some ways. We'll talk about that on this episode, Deal on the Cards. I also want to dive into a little bit Alec Burleson winning Silver Slugger, Masyn Winn winning the Gold Glove. What are their futures, and are they true core members of the organization that should be extended long term, or do we need to play waiting game, or either of them trade candidates? We got a lot of talk about today on this episode of Dealing the Cards. Welcome back into Dealing the Cards. Josh and Sandy will get Andrew to pop in here at some point. But we're at the St. Louis Cardinals podcast goes live twice a week over here on our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find your podcast. We got Birds on the Farm, which you guys had an awesome interview episode. I'll let you plug here in a second, which dives into prospects with Kareem Hawk over there as well. And Sandy co-hosts that. And yeah, it's an exciting offseason finally upon us. Again, the Cardinals aren't going to be big splashy spenders or making some Paul Goldschmidt level trade. But again, this is a rebuild, and this is something under new leadership that we should be expecting to see things differently. And one of the first tests of that was, how is Chaim going to manage his 40-man roster? How is he going to manage the upper levels of the minor leagues and some of these minor league free agents? Who are the guys he's going to prioritize keeping? Who's he going to let go of? This is like the first wave of those moves, but we got some of those today. So on the major league roster 40-man side of things, they outrighted Michael Siani, Roddery Munoz, Anthony Venciano, and Zach Thompson, which I'll get back to in a second, while adding utility man Brian Torres to the 40-man roster. Siani was claimed by the Atlanta Braves. Munoz was claimed by Cincinnati. Venciano elected to be in minor league free agency, but then Thompson was weird because they originally said that he was going to be a minor league free agent, and then Derek Gould just reported that due to some complexity in how the rules work with someone spending the entire season on the major league roster, IL, apparently Thompson wasn't eligible for minor league free agency, and so since he cleared waivers, he's in Memphis. So the Cardinals somehow got to hold on to him. He is not a minor league free agent, so the Cardinals do keep Thompson, but they lost Siani, Michael Siani, good soldier, Roddery Munoz, Venciano, but then they add Brian Torres to the 40-man roster. We'll get into some of the other smaller moves they made on top of that, which I do think there's some interesting names in there as well. But I guess big question, how's it feel for the Michael Siani era to be? No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, though, like you see these 40-man roster moves, are you at all surprised by any of this? And is there anything we could really take away from that? And I know, guys, if you're listening, you're like, this is boring. We'll get into more exciting stuff here in a moment, but I think this is important. Sandy, what does this tell you about Chaim Bloom so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's willing to cut with guys on, like, just move on from guys on the edge of the roster. And I think that's a good thing. 40-man roster depth has been a huge problem for the Cardinals for the last, 3 to 5 years. It's been especially glaring. This year, it was terrible. It really felt like after the Cardinals dealt with some real injuries on the position player side, especially in the second half, and they were throwing lineups out there at different points in the season involving Ryan Vilade. We saw plenty of at-bats from Michael Siani over the last 2 years. Nathan Church was a plug-and-play starter for you for multiple weeks. So that shows you that, one, the Cardinals have had a real depth issue, and two, Chaim is okay cutting some of that chaff off the roster. He's just saying, we don't need it. We're moving on. I do think if the Mo era had continued, Michael Siani would make it to opening day. Maybe not as a member of the 26-man, but I think Michael Siani would be on your 40-man roster. So it's nice. It's very refreshing. And hopefully the depth is not going to be the same issue that it's been in the past. Also, really happy that they were able to keep Veneziano over Munoz. I like Veneziano a lot better. We've talked about him when the Cardinals brought him in initially, but I like that. And I think Thompson is nice depth too. So great quirk in the rules that allowed them to keep him around. Happy about that. That should be good for their bullpen moving forward.
Just to clarify, they only kept Thompson. Veneziano is a minor league free agent.
Wait, I have that they were able to send him outright to Memphis.
Oh, no. Yeah. Sorry, you're right. He did stay. Yep. Nope. I got that wrong.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's great.
Correct.
And also, I hope the Cardinals tee off on Roddery Munoz in Cincinnati next year.
Yes. Sorry for the misinformation there, guys. So I do think, so we can get more into that too, but then I want to flip on the other side of this too. They did add Brian Torres to the major league, or to the 40-man roster, which I thought was pretty interesting. Last year he led all, look, I can't tell. It might be all. I don't think it's all minor league players. I think it might be all Cardinals minor league players in OBP with a 441. He is age 28 though, so he's not a young guy. He was 18th. Or no, I guess he led all of baseball or minor league baseball on base percentage, was 8th in batting average with 328 batting average. He played all over the field and has played all over the field before. So he's logged more than 40 games at catcher, first base, second base, third base, left field, center field, and right field, according to Redbird Farmhands. Again, that's a guy that you're not expecting a lot out of, but it's an interesting guy that could potentially be your 26th man on the roster in the future. Or again, as the season goes on, you need to plug and play someone in there. Brian Torres is a guy that could fill multiple roles. And so then maybe allows you to be a little bit more interesting with your bench spot, knowing that you've got a Torres that can play all over the place in that 26 spot. And it allows you to be creative with, I don't know, carrying 3 catchers that they need to, so that they can have Yvonne catch, but then also DH a lot if they want to, or just they can get creative with the roster there. I wouldn't be shocked if Torres ends up getting moved off to 40-man. Like, I don't think he's a guy that are like, oh, we have to keep on this 40-man roster. So I think he's there. They obviously I think they added him for a reason, but it's more of a smaller depth thing. I think he could be an interesting guy. Are you gonna miss Siani? Oh, you're muted, by the way. Flashing start, muted. I'm giving misinformation. It's been a great episode so far.
Siani a little bit, it was fun to watch him range around center field at Busch Stadium. I can't believe he didn't win the Gold Glove last year. Really thought he deserved it. He was
unfortunately, I think he ended up, because when he got injured. Yeah, he didn't qualify, which was just frustrating.
But. Yeah. But he was just short. I think he would have won it had he been able to be a finalist. But yeah, he was a ton of fun to watch on defense. Offensively, the Siani experiment was a miserable thing, yet he was still a better hitter than Jordan Walker last year. So that was fun. But yeah, no, it's good to move on. Let's move on. I was ready to move on before the 2024 season started. Like, I remember I kept charting how many days Siani had survived on the roster, and I couldn't believe it. But it's time to move on. He's a clear type of gadget player that, sure, you might not lose 100 games with him in your lineup, but you're also not gonna do a lot of damage with the Siani in your lineup every day. No. Like, that's the very type of decent floor, incredibly low ceiling player that the Cardinals don't need to be rostering right now.
Yeah, exactly. Especially right now. I mean, when you're a team like the Atlanta Braves, a Gold Glove defensive center fielder that could be a 26-man is an interesting thing to have off your bench, and a good base runner. He's a guy that can help you win ball games in the margins in a way that the Cardinals should care less about having a player like that in the roster next year, more about development and plugging guys in. And so totally fine with what they did there. We'll see what happens. And then a couple of the other smaller roster moves. A flurry of upper level minor league arms became minor league free agents between Drew Rom, Zach Weiss, Adenero Mosqueda, Tyler Matzik, Jack Ralston, Zach Plesac, Aaron Wilkerson, Osvaldo Bieros, Curtis Taylor, which I want to circle that name for a moment, and catcher Gavin Collins. So obviously there's a couple names in there Cardinal fans will recognize, but Curtis Taylor is the one I think will be really interesting to see if they try to make a reunion with, or if they bring him back on a minor league deal. Maybe if they bring him back on a really cheap major league deal. He was excellent for them in AAA this year. Let me pull up his numbers now from the year, but I believe that led them in ERA. I think he was a AAA All-Star.
Yeah, he was outstanding all season.
Yeah, and so obviously you're not being like, oh, he's a future stud, but 3.21 ERA, 31 games, 24 starts, 137 innings logged. He's not necessarily a strikeout machine by any means, but he's just an interesting, dependable arm. He's a guy that seems like they made some tweaks with and targeted and seemed to get some results out of. Now he might be looking for an opportunity somewhere on a major league roster, and if he doesn't get it, then maybe he'll be open to a minor league deal. A team like the Cardinals, I think, would make a lot of sense for a guy like Curtis Taylor, because the opportunity should be there if he pitches well, and there's not a lot of guys to compete with at the upper levels of the minors. But what this list does tell me as well, and you can get on the Curtis Taylor point or some of this, is they let go of a lot. I mean, well, not just let go of these guys elected free agency. They can always come back on minor league deals, but there is going to be a progression this offseason with some of these Springfield AA arms potentially going up to AAA in the offseason. You've got all these guys who were on the IL last year, like Tink Hence. You're going to have Takeo Robin, Cooper Jerpy. He'll come back later in the year, but they're kind of factors. You're going to have guys from the new draft class coming in. And then I'm sure the Cardinals are anticipating acquiring some pitching prospects in some of their deals, whether it's a Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson type trades, or it's pieces that they get back and Sonny Gray trade, potential Wilson Contreras trade. Who knows what they get for Nato, but even if it's just an arm, like they need space for that. I do think they're kind of clearing the way because they're going to have in a weird way where they don't have enough major league depth right now, but they have plenty of young arms to get innings done at the minor league levels, if that makes sense. So I see why they're pushing out some of these filler arms because they've got a lot of pitching prospects they need to get opportunity to, but they will still need to get some filler at the very top of Memphis, like that borderline between St. Louis and Memphis, so that they've got guys they can turn to if they need to, but they don't have to. And they'll need some arms just straight up for the rotation, but they don't want to block Quinn Matthews or anyone else who could potentially be ready next year. But I think 2026, outside of McGreevy, Matthews, Leahy, guys like that, there isn't a lot of guys unless they have excellent years next year that I envision needing opportunities in the first half because, I mean, Tink is just the ultimate wild card in the world right now. Roby and Jerpy obviously won't be ready for a while. Doyle, I mean, best case is he comes up later in the year, right? Like I doubt it's June, July. I mean, that's best case, but you're not rushing that.
If Doyle pitches at the big league level, I think the more
I would too. But so like just when you throw all those names out there, most of them are 2027 and beyond. And so you want to make sure they have plenty of opportunity in the minor league rotations to pitch, but you still need guys who can float between Memphis and St. Louis or stick in St. Louis until some of those guys are ready. So anything else you're kind of pulling from the list of names here?
Yeah, before we move on, there's one name I want to highlight, and I really hope the Cardinals pursue reunion with this left-hander, but I'll table that for just a second here, because to add to this conversation and to plug what we did on Birds on the Farm the other day, we talked to Bryson Motts, a ton of fun, left-hander, velocity was way up this year, great stuff across the board, really played his way back into the Cardinals' plans, and he'll be moving up from Springfield, where he was a huge part of that championship-winning roster, to AAA, along with Ishan Henderson and Pete Hansen. I think the Cardinals are going to move all three of those guys together. They've moved them together in the past. Ishan was arguably a top 4 prospect in the Cardinals system this year on the pitching side, I think. I probably, like, if you were just blind ranking this season, he probably would have landed in my top 4 or 5. He was outstanding. But all three of those guys are going to earn rotation spots in Memphis, I believe. And so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense these guys are moving on. They'll be joined by Liam Doyle, and Quinn Matthews, and like that's going to be a rotation, right? So maybe they run a 6-man because Curtis Taylor would be interesting to me, but we'll see.
I bet Doyle starts in Springfield though. Like I don't see him being in Memphis.
Yeah, later in the year though, like I think he'll definitely be in Memphis by July, right?
Yeah, but you would think by that point too. Then if he's moving up, you're probably thinking of Quinn Matthews is up. If you had a Curtis Taylor, you're probably utilizing him at that point. Yeah, interesting to see where Max Rotchicks falls into this because he's in the Memphis rotation right now.
I mean, there's a lot more depth there than there's been in years past, like without a doubt. Sure. I don't even know where if you have room for a guy like I don't know what the plan is with Sem Bursa once whatever's going on is fixed.
Yeah, that's another name.
I don't even know. I don't even know what the plan is for him.
They're retaining Zach Thompson, which obviously is probably more of a bullpen piece, and I don't really see a future with him on the roster. I don't think you mentioned Chen Wei Lin as well, who's a guy that will be in Springfield.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that'll be a second go at Springfield, so later in the year he could be a Memphis arm. I'm guessing he's a little bit slower, but he's impressed in the Arizona Fall League. To your just point, there's just a lot of names there that it would like it's their best case scenarios that they're ready to be in St. Louis in 2026, but it's really looking more at mid 2027 for a lot of these arms, or maybe early. And so, yeah, they're in that little funky spot where the arms are coming, but they're just not quite ready yet. But I sure hope the Cardinals don't do something where they start to prioritize AAA arms with a little bit lower ceilings to have that, because I just don't really see why you would need to. And I don't think Chaim Bloom would do that. I think Mo would have done that in the past few years, where they go get the Drew Roms and the Adam Kaufensteins and Sem Bursas rather than targeting some higher upside, further away arms. When you're in a rebuild, that's what you should most likely be doing. I'd rather sign Curtis Taylor and have him come up and make starts for me next year than to go after a guy who you're hoping can be Michael McGreevy. I'm wanting more upside than that.
100%. The other thing is too, I think a lot of those moves by Mo, like you never go after Robersa and Kloffenstein if you have the pipeline that you have now.
Exactly.
They're pipeline being fully realized, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking about in 2027 where the Cardinals should be is you have 4 or 5 guys that are all able to give you best case scenario of what Kloffenstein could give you, if not more. A lot of those guys have much higher ceilings than him. You know, like I think Ishan Henderson has a way higher ceiling than Kloffenstein ever had. So they're close to fully realizing the pitching pipeline that they've spent the last several years building out. And that's why I think there's no way Chaim would ever make a move like that. Whereas Mo had drained things to the point where none of that was within 3 or 4 years of the big league level. And so he felt like, well, my options are either really suck on the pitching front for a while or plug gaps by going out and getting a Kloffenstein. And it didn't, it was the worst. But real quick, before we move on, the name Odnier Mosqueda stuck out to me. I really liked what Mosqueda did in Memphis this year. On the surface, the stats weren't incredible. I think he had like a 4.52 ERA, but he did give them something like 60, 65 innings. He's got a really nice slider from the left side, sits in the low 90s. I think he's known to throw into like 91, 92. But from the left side, he's kind of got a funky slot. He's a really fun guy to watch. I hope the Cardinals bring him back. He was really effective, especially in the first half in Memphis. And we talked about him on Birds on the Farm quite a bit. Kareem and I certainly thought he had earned a shot in the bullpen in St. Louis, and he kind of got passed over, and they made some weird decisions with the bullpen and roster management. But I think if he was to come back and do what he did again, he'd have a great chance to factor into the St. Louis bullpen at some point next year. So I hope they pursue a reunion with Mosqueda. I think he's definitely got the talent to be on a 40-man roster. I'm pretty sure he came from Boston, where he made some real waves as a prospect there. People really liked him early on in his career. So I hope the Cardinals pursue a reunion with Odnier Mosqueda.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Just because at this point in the offseason, too, and to your point, like these guys are mostly elected. I mean, some of these guys, the Cardinals know they're not bringing back.
Yeah.
Others are clearly electing free agency. And so, we'll see what happens with that. There's a question in the chat about how big the 40-man roster is now. It is set now to, it was originally announced 37, but because Thompson is, it's 37 because Thompson's being retained as post 40-man roster. They do have 37. There was one more thing I was going to say after you. I do think it's interesting. Thomas, oh my gosh, Govain. Sorry, man, my brain was totally fried right there because I was trying to think of the point in the first place. Did a great interview on RR with Cade Winquist, and this has been permeating through the reporting this last year. I've heard this about Matt Pierpont. The Cardinals have had the infrastructure for a little bit to do pitching development well, but there is more of a hands-on. This is from Pierpont. This is from Cerfolio. This is from Bloom. Very specific plans, and now with the pitching coordinators, with the differences in staffing, some of this is new technology, but a lot of this is actually just now knowing how to use the right technology. There's a reason why the Cardinals pitching seems to have taken a step forward this past year, and like a lot of those names you mentioned, like guys like no one was talking about. Well, no one like as in a casual or pretty plugged in Cardinal fan was talking about Eshawn Henderson or Bryson Motts Braden Davis or guys like that being anything outside of just like seeing their names and be like, oh, wonder what that is. Like there are guys who took legitimate steps forward. Like Winquist is a guy that's a guy who's been in the system for a while, an older prospect who now is on their radar. And it's just interesting to see those steps forward. And so obviously you've got a lot of guys in the system right now, but there's a lot of reason for optimism for the future, even though 2026 will be a little bit bleak in terms of young arms being ready to come up. 2027, 2028 is when it feels like, man, the Cardinals might be able to be back to being more of a pitching pipeline right as Andrew joins. So I guess before we transition to some more fun Major League roster related topics, Andrew, do you want to pour one out for Michael Siani?
Oh, I don't have the clip in the studio if that's what we're talking about, but yeah, that's tough.
No, I mean, I thought about getting the clip and then I forgot. We'll have to pull it some other time, but oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as always, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, and that's 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 All Boulevard and Olivet, open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards. They have new selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players from stars from around the league. Make sure you go check them out. We know many of you shop there already. Let them know we sent you if you go into the store. Remember, send us your cards when you pull stuff or get stuff from the case. We always love seeing that. And Andrew's always copying some of the weirdest cards because
I'll be back there next week, and I'll be able to show everyone the great card that I bought from them. So
that you spent however much money you spent on it is that many dollars too many.
Too many. But there's another one on eBay right now that I'm looking at. The Cardinals version of it. So,
what a time to be alive. So Yes, we always really appreciate 314 and their support of the podcast. So, obviously there was some award news this past week that we should be talking about a little bit here. So let's start on, I feel like, the Alec Burleson front, because that one's maybe actually, no, I think they're both really interesting. So, known Burleson hater, Sandy McMillan, did not see this coming. That's for sure.
It's a great year. I'm thrilled. I'm so happy.
But Alec Burleson did win the Utility Man Silver Slugger Award. Yes, he was a utility man because he played both corner outfield spots and first base this year. On the season, Burley slashed 290, 343, 459, a 124 WRC plus with 18 home runs and 69 RBIs in 139 games, worth about 2.1 F4 on the year. He significantly improved as the season went on against left-handed pitching. He proved to be consistent over the course of a year, where in 2024, people remember in the first half, especially in the middle of the summer, he was excellent at the plate, really fell off, especially in September last year. People wondered, can he do this over the course of a season? He also improved defensively, where he was a league average first baseman, slightly below average left fielder, pretty significantly below average right fielder, but overall just a slightly below league average defender. But with that kind of bat, you can play. It is very encouraging improvements. Of all the runway guys from last year, he probably took the most advantage of it outside of Ivan Herrera. So you love to see that. Here's my question to you guys, though. Is Burleson more valuable to the Cardinals long-term, like being in St. Louis? Or is this the kind of guy you trade where it's a first baseman, corner outfielder type, which again, his offense was good this year. He was when he played first base, he played 40 something games there, had a 140 WRC plus at first base. Again, that's a small sample size, but like that's a legit bat. Plays league average defense there. But when you play first base or below average corner outfield defense, your bat has to truly play to make you worth it, right? What was he, a 2.1 win player this year in a career year? And so I don't know. Is that the kind of guy you would be shopping this offseason? I mean, you have to trade him, but this is someone I would be considering looking at a deal for, even more so than Brendan Donovan, especially more than Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman at this point. Am I off base for thinking that, or do you think he's maybe more of an extension candidate, or you just kind of ride it out year to year?
Well, I mean, I don't think you extend Burleson right now because you've already got, unless you're moving Contreras, like you've already got a guy that's going to be playing first base, hopefully every day, right? The Cardinals have the logjam of corner outfield, corner infield types that they've always had. And I also just like Burleson had a great year this year for sure. One thing he stopped chasing quite as much as he was in the past. And that's hurt Burleson particularly because he makes such great contact all the time. And so when you chase and you make contact, you end up putting balls in play that you'd rather just wait on. And you don't do as much damage because you're not hitting stuff in the middle of the zone. But when Burleson got more selective this year, he really ticked up and he finished super strong. But yeah, Josh, I think I'm with you. I know whatever I say, Andrew's going to be like, ooh, Sandy hates Burleson. It's not true. I like Alec Burleson. He had a great year this year. At the same time, though, I think this is the type of player that we talked about with Siani, how he benefits a winning team more than he benefits a team that's not great. And I think sort of in the same vein, Burleson is a playoff type piece, right? Where this is a guy that you can move around just a little bit, but he fills out a lineup. You know what I mean? Like Burleson would be an otherworldly 6-hole hitter somewhere. He really like what Teoscar Hernandez has been for the Dodgers, where he brings length to that lineup. He makes it so there really aren't any off days for opposing pitchers in the bottom half. That's what you want to do with Alec Burleson. That's the type of player that I think he can be on a roster. Whereas if he stays in St. Louis long term, you're talking about building around him. One, I don't think he's not going to derive that, or he's not going to create the full value that a guy like JJ Weatherholt or Masyn Winn should be able to create for you by doing things well outside of just, hitting for some power. So that's my take. I think the Cardinals probably should look to move. And also this would be the first time ever that they are actually capitalizing on somebody when their value is at their highest peak. You're talking about multiple years of control left, and you're talking about a guy that just had the best year he's had, and the underlying metrics are really positive.
Yeah. So this is something that I think this plays into it. I said it's a career year. Now, I'm not saying he can never have a better year than this, but it's been his career year so far. I think he's closer to his ceiling, though, than he does have room to grow. So, yes, Steve, I agree. I think he will get better over the course of time. But if you don't believe there's a ton of room to grow, that's where I really think this is a conversation about do you sell high. So, Andrew, do you think Burleson as a player has more like a much higher ceiling than he's hit already, or do you think he's closer to that? And then overall, how are you feeling about that question?
Yeah, I don't really think so. I think Burleson probably has more power than most of the guys that we're looking at on the Cardinals that we're looking at building around, right? Like other than Herrera and I don't know, Nolan Gorman, I don't think there's a power tool that I would say is as good as Burleson's, and that's not really saying much because the Cardinals really are lacking that. Nolan Gorman is the only guy I look at as having a special power tool, but he has no other tools, so that's not really helpful in that case. So I would definitely be open to moving him. I wouldn't, be decided on giving up on him as I would a Lars Nootbaar if he were healthy, or Arenado, or even I don't know, Brendan Donovan, if they're content with not extending him, which seems to be what's going to end up happening. And I think you probably get more for Burleson than you could for a Brendan Donovan because he's not in arbitration yet, I don't believe. I think he's about to be this upcoming season, but he has more years of control left. And, offensively, I feel like is a supplemental piece. And if you don't think that the Cardinals are necessarily going to be competitive for the next season or two, it's definitely not a piece you need to hold on to because he doesn't provide that value elsewhere. Like Masyn Winn I would keep because that defense you really can't find elsewhere, but I think you can develop another Alec Burleson if you have the right players in your organization, and if you he's not a guy that's irreplaceable. Like Masyn Winn has the tools at shortstop that you don't want to get rid of. Victor Scott in center field, those are tools you can't really find, but I don't really see anything in Burleson particularly that's extremely special. He does a lot of things right, and that's hard to come by, but not impossible. Whereas some of these other players, I feel have a little bit more to offer. And Burleson's hit his ceiling, I think. There's definitely he could get a little bit better, but I don't think he's going to develop into that star bat that we have seen in a Jordan Walker or a Nolan Gorman, who didn't pan out. But if they had hit their ceilings, we'd be talking about a team that's looking to compete next year. But Burleson hitting his ceiling is yeah, this is great, but you could definitely try to get something for him. And if you can't get anything, holding on to him is still fine. I don't think that's wrong, but I would definitely see what you can go out and get.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, Burleson proved to be a highly productive player this year, and there's no reason to force a trade or to rush to do one by any means. But he is in his first year of arbitration, so when people talk about trade value and what a player can bring you in return, everyone's oh, Brendan Donovan, 2 years of control remaining. How exciting is that? Lars Nootbaar, even though he's had injuries, he still has used 2 years. This is Alec Burleson, Silver Slugger, 3 years of control remaining. That's why I'm not saying, oh, I don't think Alec Burleson's a good player, he's going to fall off, those type of things. I'm saying I think he's a good player. And obviously, if they trade him, I think he'll have a good year next year. I just don't think it would hurt as bad as you might think to get rid of him. And I think you could get a really, really handsome return for him. You're talking about a guy who's going to be about $3.5 million arbitration next year. That's probably going to double the year after an arbitration, and then you're going to be above $10 million a year. So again, not big numbers to pay someone, but he will be getting more expensive over the next few years. And then next offseason, he's in the same position that Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar are right now. And so I'm even thinking getting ahead of it is are we going to be sitting here next year thinking, well, the Cardinals are still a year or two away, so maybe you trade Alec Burleson because by the time you're competing, you're going to have to pay him that free agent contract. It's the same conversation we have with Brendan Donovan, but I think it makes even more sense to sell high this time around because you're truly maximizing value. Brendan Donovan, you're getting as much as you can at this point, but I think you could have gotten even more last offseason potentially. And again, I think he's a culture guy, extension, all that kind of stuff. So there is that side of it. I'm also looking at some of the underlying metrics with him. One of the things that encourages me about Burleson versus some of the other guys on the roster has they continue to talk about how he's been a guy who continues to not that other guys don't take coaching well, but in a way that they haven't had, they called out Jordan Walker's work ethic in the way that they've been frustrated with Nolan Gorman. Burleson has made the changes that they've needed from him. And so this underneath the hood, a lot of stuff looks good, but when you're talking about power, he's a slightly above average swing speed. And so he does generate good bat speed, but it's not something elite by any means where you're man, once this guy just figures out how to hit the ball correctly, he's gonna hit more home runs. It feels like his ceiling is more mid-20s home runs, which is good, but that's not a power bat, right?
Burleson took a step back this year in terms of how many home runs he hit, right? He only hit 18 home runs this year. He didn't even get to the 20.
And less at bat, or only a little bit less at bat. Sorry.
Yeah. But you're talking about a guy like I think in a lot of ways Burleson had the best year he's going to have. The average ran almost up to 300 without elite speed, right? So Burley's not legging out any infield singles. He hit a lot of line drives for you. He ran a BABIP that was like 312 or something. It's like 40 points higher than any BABIP he's run in any other year of his career. Now, I'm not saying that Burleson can't sustain high BABIPs, right? He has solid exit velocity numbers, which were right in line with where they've been throughout his career, and he hits a lot of line drives. Generally, those guys run BABIPs in like the 285 to 290 range, but 312 is pretty steep. I don't know if he's just going to replace that every year. He did all of those things right, and you still ended up with a guy that had an OPS right around 800. 800 is a great hitter, but I don't think there's the potential in here for Burleson to put up 900s or anything like that. You know what I mean? I don't think there's the potential for him to be that 900 OPS bat that you need to anchor a good offense.
For sure.
And I just, like, where does the growth come from? To people who think Burleson's going to get better in the future, right? Like, you've already pretty much maxed out what you're going to do in terms of batting average on balls in play. I don't think he's going to hit 300 plus. I'm not sure where the on base percentage comes from. I mean, that's about as good as it's going to get from Burleson. He actually took a big step back in terms of swinging at stuff out of the zone. So I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that walks 10 to 12% of the time. I don't think that's in his profile. And so, you just look at the guy and it's like, it was a great season. And when a great season is still very limited in terms of what you do in the field, very limited in terms of what you do on the base paths, and you generate some power, a solid final OPS number, but that's it. Like, I think he probably has more value in terms of what he can bring back. And you get those prospects in the door now, as opposed to now.
Yeah. And I've seen some of this, and I'm not sure how much the chat contributes some of this stuff in, or if you're listening now and thinking, well, why would you just trade Wilson Contreras, keep the younger guy like Burleson? Well, Wilson Contreras isn't going to get you as much. And even then, like, with the state of the roster right now, I'm not concerned about roster construction. Like, I'll throw Nolan Gorman at first base if I have to next year, if I get a really good deal for both Wilson Contreras and Alec Burleson. Like, there's no one I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I have a second baseman. Like, if you got the best deals possible, I mean, there's no way they don't have a second baseman, obviously, but you just move things on. It'll be fine. I think to your point, there's a lot of things that he continues to have to take steps forward on, where he'd have to become competing for a batting title to be like a 3.5-4 win player, or he'd have to have like a significant power jump to go 3.5-4 win player, or he'd have to be an above average defender. Now, again, if he does part of those things where he becomes a 25 home run a year guy, keeps that batting average, and it's now a league average defender at the corners and first base, okay, you're talking about a 3.5 win player, but even that's not like a super valuable player. First baseman, that kind of production offensively is something that's a little bit easier to find than a guy who plays good defense and has a bat in other places, which is why you would prioritize holding on to, my opinion, of Brendan Donovan, even though he was a little bit, he regressed a little bit defensively this past year, but I think that probably has to do with the fact he was playing through turf toe most of the year. Like, I don't know why we don't think about that. And I know you can say the injuries thing, but I'm just saying, like, it was dumb that they didn't play through it. He could have been fine. Or like when JJ Weatherholt comes up, like, there's a reason why, even if his numbers offensively aren't quite Alec Burleson, the defense he'll play and the speed he'll bring makes him a far valuable player in long term. Like, you think the bats can be better and going to play second base, third base, or shortstop at a high level. Like, you have to keep these things in mind when you talk about roster construction and value. And I do just think there's probably teams that would love to get a bat, like you said, Brett Sandy, to get as their 5 or 6 hole hitter to go compete with the Dodgers and Blue Jays and these teams next year and try to go win a World Series before we lose baseball for a year. So, and super cheap, right? And so teams love to acquire guys that don't cost them a lot of money.
And just to throw out there as well, to add to the value discussion, if Alec Burleson does exactly what he did this year, next year, okay, he gives you another season right around 800 OPS, maybe he hits 22 homers. You're now talking about an offensive player who hasn't evolved necessarily, and there's just one less year of control. Like, the Cardinals can wait for him to reach top value, I guess. But even if that increases slightly, there's going to be 2/3 the amount of control there is now. So he's still worth less, and he's more expensive at that point for you. So I do think no matter what happens next year, unless Burleson comes out and actually turns into a 3.5 win player, which I don't think is in the range of outcomes for Alec Burleson as a player, you're talking about him losing value.
Yeah. Which, again, I mean, even seeing the chat, I mentioned that comment about Gorm, I think Alec Burleson's a much better player than Nolan Gorman right now.
Absolutely.
Like Gorm has that power potential that Burleson doesn't have, but Burleson's a better player. But you trade out Nolan Gorman, you're not getting anything. Like Derek Gould talked about on the best podcast in baseball recently, that they were shopping Nolan Gorman last offseason and they weren't getting any offers. They weren't even I can't remember what key deal he compared it to, but I think he was comparing like even to like the Tyler O'Neill deal. Like they weren't even getting that, which kind of surprises me that a team didn't want to take any shot at Nolan Gorman. But so there's nothing. I personally don't think you really you can move him, that's fine, but like I'd rather move the guys that are going to bring you back some value. So anyways, we'll see. I think you can keep Alec Burleson and it's fine. I think he definitely can improve as a hitter. I'm just talking about if you're thinking about a guy to sell high on, he seems to fit the bill to me. And I'm not saying there's no, like, this isn't Eric Fetty where we're like waving the red flag saying this isn't real, this is going to fall apart, like this is a really bad decision. It's just like I wouldn't be necessarily shopping Alec Burleson, but I'd definitely be listening to offers and saying, if you want to give me a really good offer, I will trade him. But if not, yeah, you keep him next year. There's no rush to do it. But on the flip side, there's Masyn Winn. And Masyn obviously won his first career Gold Glove at shortstop. Last year, he won the Fielding Bible Award at shortstop. He was incredible defensively this year. His big issue as a rookie was he committed, I think, a league high errors of like 19. He cut it all the way down to I think he's the best shortstop in baseball among qualified shortstops with like just 3 errors on the season. So like he's not making errors anymore and he's making the high level plays. I mean, he's incredible defensively. The bat obviously took a little bit of a hit this year, but some of that's probably playing through that knee issue. But then sophomore slumps, they happen. I think we all believe there's more in that bat there. What's the true ceiling of Masyn Winn's bat? Not totally sure there. But I do think he's valuable. I don't know. I'm Andrew and then Sandy. I want Andrew to guess first, though. Out of players that are 23 or younger since Masyn Winn's debut, where do you think he ranks in WAR?
Since his debut, so that was like 2 years ago.
Sorry, I guess I'll say since his full rookie year. I did include
since last year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably like Kurtz is probably up there. No,
maybe Jacob Wilson.
Let me take out qualified because that doesn't matter for a stat like this. But yeah, Kurtz is not above him. So this is total. This is total WAR over the last 2 years. I mean, Kurtz only played 1 year.
Over the last 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, last 2 years.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, like Caminero.
Wait, no, where do you think he ranks? Just like
no, I'm trying to figure out. Like, I'm trying to think of guys who are younger. Like third.
Yeah, I'd wager he's in the top 3.
Oh, okay. You guys are aggressive, but I mean, he's top 5. So, anyways, it's impressive though. I mean, so you're talking about Elliot, Mr. De La Cruz at a 10.9 F4, Jackson Merrill 8.4, Pete Crow Armstrong 8.0, Gunnar Henderson 7.9. These tied the White Langford with 7.1 F4 the last 2 years. That's above Junior. That's above Churio. That's above Colton Carroll. That's above Julio Rodriguez. It's above Riley Green. It's above Neto. Like, I mean, he's a good player, guys, and obviously he accrues value in ways that aren't at like the defense and base run. I mean, base running he still has room to improve. Especially stealing bases, but defense, I mean, we all value it, but like when people look at the box, like the player card, you're always looking at the slash line, right? Masyn Winn's elite defense at shortstop matters, and I think we all believe he has room to grow offensively. I'm just curious for you guys. Obviously, I don't think any of us are gonna be like trade Masyn Winn, but I'm curious if, in a way that none of the three of us were like, let's look at Alec Burleson as an extension candidate. I mean, do you think Masyn Winn's a guy that they need to start locking up quickly because he's a part of this core, or is he a really good player but not quite ready to say he's a long-term core member of the St. Louis Cardinals? Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I think I would say that, like he's shown himself to be one of the best shortstops in all baseball, and I think we've seen about the worst of what it's going to be offensively. I think there's definitely room to grow with the bat, and he was playing through that injury there. Would I rather have PCA or Winn right now? Probably Winn. Sorry, PCA. PCA was just horrible in the second half, and like actually one of the worst hitters in all baseball. So I'm sorry. Maybe I'm biased, but I would rather have Winn. Also, Winn has never let anyone score from second base on a pop-up, but that's whatever. Anyway, maybe I should think more about that question. But
would you rather have Masyn win PCA? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's definitely, out of all of the players on the roster, probably the cornerstone that I would like extend right now and build around. Maybe that's Herrera, but we haven't seen that he can play a field position yet. So that's definitely not, it's definitely in the range of outcomes where he could become more important than Winn, but it's definitely not something that I would pencil in yet. Who knows? Platinum Glove, definitely in consideration. That's a fan vote, which is really dumb. I don't understand why that's a fan vote. PCA is probably going to end up winning because the fans just know him as a household name. But I think Masyn Winn has more outs above average, plays a more valuable position. So I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think that out of all of the players, I would definitely not trade Winn or Herrera. But like if I could only pick one, it would probably be Winn at this point. But yeah.
Sandy, to factor into to the idea of him potentially being a extension guy, like some people might want to see another year and see the back and come around, but he is like Masyn Winn, year one arbitration starts next year, and so if you're gonna get that good long-term deal, it does. He's already he'll be in his second, or he'll be after
year 3 because they had that they did that service time manipulation year 1.
Yeah, this will be year 3. Arbitration.
Yeah, so next year will be arbitration.
Oh, right? Yeah, next offseason.
Yeah, so I'm saying like if you wait one more season to see what you've got, you're talking about trying to extend a guy who's already in arbitration, and it gets more expensive and it gets harder to do when that happens. And he's going to be worth money in arbitration because of the defensive value, and especially if he has a good offensive year, he's going to get dough. And so like if you're gonna try and get an extension done for the fact that you want to get a good deal on it, this is the offseason to try and do it. Not that he might not want it, but this is the offseason to try.
I would extend him yesterday. It actually maddens me that there haven't been reports of the Cardinals trying to figure something out with Masyn Winn. I think it's the most slam dunk extension candidate on the roster at this point. I think it makes way too much sense. Number one, like you can win with Masyn Winn as your shortstop. Masyn Winn we just talked about how valuable he is, right? Like the floor with Masyn Winn is so high.
Yeah. Do you want to guess what his dollars value is the past 2 years?
Put together?
Yeah.
Let me think. Probably like $38 million or something. 35.
Way more.
50.
55 million.
Dude, he's a good player. Like Masyn Winn had a 4+ win season as a second-year player. Really, it was his first full season. Like, he's a really good player. I think Cardinals fans have kind of glossed over it because he plays really good defense. But, like, Masyn Winn is capable of giving you the very best of what Tommy Edman gave you during his best year in 2021 and way more. I think Masyn Winn, I think it's a slam dunk extension candidate.
Oh,
for
man.
Me.
Here's some more.
Steady, right? Like, that's.
I'd pay Masyn Winn. I'd give Masyn Winn, like, real money.
Where do you guys think he ranks in WAR among all position players since last year?
Like 15th or 20th, 25th?
A little too high.
No, like 30, 40.
39th. So he's above guys like Bryce Terrain, Riley Green, Marcus Semien, Brendan Donovan, Paredes, Nimmo, Michael Bush, Pete Alonso, Josh Naylor, Bogarts, and like he's in company with names like Wyatt Langford, Manny Machado, Matt Olson, Stephen Kwan, Brett Rooker.
If Winn had replicated last season, this season, because he got hurt, and once he had that knee issue, he cratered at the plate.
Yeah,
the pace he was on he was going to be even better. It seemed like in mid-May, I was really thinking about like, wow, Masyn Winn is like one of the best shortstops in baseball. It really felt that way, like as an all-around thing. Because Masyn Winn could if Masyn Winn could be a 115 WRC plus player, he would legitimately put up some MVP numbers in terms of WAR production, total production. Like it'd be that good. He would find his way into conversations in down years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like he could easily be a 5.5 win player just by virtue of how great he is defensively. I mean, he finished in the 8th percentile in WRC plus this year, I think. Not in WRC plus, sorry, in Savant's ex-WOBA. And like it was way better than that for most of the year. He
1,000% could be an MVP downvote guy without hitting a ceiling. Because you're talking about like Dansby Swanson thinks an interesting comp where I think he'd be a better version of him. And
ever.
Yeah, and he was just slightly below him in WAR last 2 years, and you're not paying him nearly as much money. But 2022 is last year in Atlanta, which was like his career year. He finished 12th in MVP voting. First year in Chicago, he was 19th in MVP voting. Like Masyn Winn can very easily be a guy like that, and if his bat is continues to improve and be slightly above league average or like 10%, 15% above league average, talking about like an extremely valuable player. And I mean, in 2024, he was a 104 WRC plus guy, and obviously he dipped to 191 this year, but his defense got better, so he basically put out the same WAR outlet. So if you're talking about if he gets his bats back to that, you're talking about a 4.5 win player already, and that's just slightly above league average offensively. You get him to the 15, 20% above league average, which is probably a ceiling. It's like, whoa, that's a really good player right there.
Yeah, giving you like down year Francisco Lindor production.
Yeah, because I don't know about you guys. I don't think there's a chance he's like a top 3 shortstop in today's game, because there's just too good of guys there where the bat's like truly like MVP level. But I think he could be top 5, top 6, top 7.
Well, it's a really about this season that Lindor's last full season in Cleveland, when he emerged as like a true dominant player, I guess he'd already emerged as like a great player, but he had multiple years in Cleveland where he put up OPS pluses of 106, 116, 118, 104. Like Winn could do that offensively, and he's arguably a better defender than Francisco Lindor is. Now, he's not going to put up the 130s, the 140s that Lindor's put up in other years, but like he could give you down year Lindor production. And yeah, I'd pay that guy $30 million a year if I knew that I could get that production.
And I guess you've got like the Geraldo Perdomo. Wow, couldn't say it. Where it's like that dude was so bad offensively for a few years, and then this year was like an MVP candidate for a while. And so like, I'm not trying to limit Masyn Winn. I'm just like, obviously, I think sometimes it's really easy to be like, oh, Ivan Herrera could be MVP, and Jordan Walker and Masyn Winn. It's like, okay, the likelihood any of these guys compete for it at all is pretty low. Like I'm like Masyn Winn, sure, there's these top end outcomes, 99th to 100 percentile, 90th percentile, whatever you want to call it, where he's like a true superstar. But I think the star is actually kind of safe. And if you extend him now, you're talking about paying a guy probably, I don't know what the numbers are, but if you can get the numbers down to when it's his free agent years in the low 20s, like you're probably saving money based off what you should be paying him at that point. I think that's the point of a long-term extension, is you're trying to, in those latter years, when you're extending a guy early, is A, you don't lose them, and B, you're trying to get a good market value, that you're not paying him $30 million a year on the open market, but instead you're paying this guy $20 million a year, and you're giving him some security in the front end. Would you guys have any hesitancy about an extension at this point?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I see someone tossed in Edgar Renteria to the chat. I think Winn's better than Renteria, and I think he has a much higher ceiling. 3 really solid years with the Cardinals. I think Winn's floor is far higher. Like, we haven't seen a defender like Winn at shortstop for the Cardinals since Ozzie Smith, probably.
For sure.
Like, he's probably the second best in terms of like pure talent on the defensive side. He might be the second best shortstop to take the field for the Cardinals, unless I'm like totally omitting somebody. Like, he's that good.
No, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. So I think Renteria is still a good comp, though, because Renteria is like a Cardinal Hall of Famer. He's a really good player. Like, that's definitely that's a very positive outcome for Masyn Winn. Obviously, I think the ceiling could be higher, but people probably would have said the same thing about Edgar Renteria, because I mean, Renteria also had a really nice bat and had some really highly productive offensive years, even though he wasn't the same defender as Masyn Winn.
That happened later in his career, though. Like, listen to this: Renteria in his age 24 season played in 141 games for St. Louis, took 549 at bats, and has 77 OPS plus and put up 1.5 WAR.
Yeah,
like Masyn Winn at the same, younger than that. They are not the same player.
Well, no, but we're talking about like as a career comp. Like, obviously, it's hard to compare guys because guys develop differently. But if his career was Edgar Renteria, I'd be totally happy with that. That's a really good player.
Yeah,
but obviously, to your point, yes, the ceiling's much higher because the kinds of WAR production he's already putting up at such a young age is just, it's very rare. Like, I think we went through it last year. Like, it was like superstars. Like, it wasn't even just shortstops. It was like true superstar type players that put up the kind of WAR he did in the season he did. And it's age 22 season he did. So yeah, I think Winn's obviously got a pretty high ceiling here, but I don't want to act like it's a disappointment if he's Edgar Renteria.
Yeah, that's fair. I just really hope that Winn, I hope his bat like takes a step forward, but I really think I'd pay him like whatever. I'm so high on Masyn Winn. I love watching him play, and I think the Cardinals would be so stupid to let him walk.
Who would you then prioritize an extension first for, Masyn Winn or JJ Weatherholt?
I mean, I think probably Masyn Winn right now. Like I've already seen Masyn Winn play for multiple years. I already know what the floor is. Also, I think with JJ Weatherholt, like you either extend him before he steps on the field, or you're going to have to wait like 2 years before he's going to sign an extension. Because I just think
I'd probably get him after year 1.
Maybe, but I think if you're a young player, like JJ Weatherholt's either going to like impress people or people are going to be disappointed, right? And if he impresses people after year 1, it would make no sense for him to sign that extension with 5 years of control left. Why wouldn't you just wait and see what you can do another year? Like maybe you take another huge step forward. And if you disappoint people, you've got 5 years of control and all the runway in the world because you're the highest draft pick the Cardinals have spent in 25 years.
Yeah, I guess where I differ on that is like JJ, like if he has a really good year, we're not talking Masyn Winn where you're trying to get him under 100. You're talking $150, $200 million extension at that point. And so that's where I think a player like that does become open to it because the Cardinals aren't looking to get like a major efficiency on the deal at that point. You're just looking to make sure you have this guy long term. That's where I like Masyn Winn and JJ to me are like 1A and 1B if I would be looking at extension. JJ's obviously very aggressive, but I think you could be saving yourself a heck of a lot of money on the back end, kind of like Corbin Carroll happened to.
The Jackson Churio deal. He's that caliber of prospect.
Yeah. And then Herrera is like Kareem just asked. I think he's a third on there for me. Like it's 1A, 1B, and then B, or 1A, 1B, and then 2 or B, whatever you want, or C. I don't know. But I think those two are the top because I think Winn safer than Yvonne, maybe because of the positional value. I don't even know if I'd say. I think they're all three in the same category to me. If we're doing a tier list, I put them all in the same tier, and then there's no one even close to their tier outside of that. Like it'd be like S tier, JJ, Yvonne, Winn extensions, Gap, then I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd probably be making a mistake to extend almost anybody else on the team except Winn. And I feel like we have like you and I are just big Donovan fans. Like we just really like
Donovan. I'm dumb. He goes in S tier too. No, he actually probably goes in B tier.
Yeah. But I think after Donovan, you're talking like any other extension is I'm throwing that in like maybe some guys on the pitching side. Like maybe Liberatore would be interesting.
No, Liberatore will get a Paul Skeens contract. You know,
okay, Randy Carey.
He's gonna get that.
Okay. None of those guys are going to sign extensions, you know, like it just, there's really not a lot of people on the team where it even makes sense for them or the team to pursue an extension. But I just really hope that they lock Winn up. It's such a huge mistake because like Masyn Winn, if the Cardinals don't lock him up, he's going to be a really good player for the next 4 years. And he's going to reach free agency.
Kareem, I'd have to think long and hard about a $40 million AAV extension for Libby. Apparently that's market value, but
yeah, that's what they say for a guy that's throwing 98 on the left side. But yeah, through a whole inning. Oof. But if they don't extend Masyn Winn, exactly what's going to happen is he's just going to be a really good player for four more years in St. Louis. And he's probably going to be like what, 25, 26 when he hits free agency because he's super young. And then all that's going to happen is someone's going to sign him to a huge deal. He's going to get like the Dansby Swanson deal. And he's going to be like a $200+ million player for career earnings. And he's probably like Masyn Winn has. You don't just say this about any player. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Masyn Winn finished his career with like 35 or 40 WAR, or potentially higher with what he can do on the defensive side. Masyn Winn could easily give you 10 seasons starting right now of 3.5 to 4.5 win production every year, and maybe peak into the 5 range at some point. Like that's the type of floor and ceiling he brings. I can't say it enough. Like if the Cardinals don't extend Masyn Winn, it's just a huge mistake.
Yeah. Which is why I said Roddery is he played a long time, but he was actually he played like 15 years, 16 years.
Yeah, 19,
you're talking about a guy in 10 years can maybe put up that kind of WAR, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Masyn Winn, he's that good.
And then also, so you're talking about JJ, who I think has the highest ceiling. I mean, arguably has the highest ceiling of the three guys we're talking about: Winn, Herrera, JJ here. Maybe Herrera has eyes. I don't know. Between the three of them, it's probably pretty equal. But like JJ's the guy, I think, in my opinion. Or you're hoping can be that. You've got Winn, who's already proven to be an extremely valuable player, potentially the best player, defensive player in all of baseball. And then you've got Ivan Herrera, who is tied for 19th in all of baseball in WRC plus since 2023, and is in the range of Gunnar Henderson, Kyle Schwarber, Cal Riley, Rafi Devers, Jose Ramirez as a bat in those years. And so, like, between the three of those guys, and this is part of the reason why I don't think the Cardinals are a 5-year rebuild. I'm talking about 2 to 3 year rebuild here. The pitching's coming, but it's multiple years away. And even when it gets here, it's going to take some time. But if you can get some of these extensions done early, I think it's wise, because you might miss on one of them and it sucks, but I don't think you're going to be a bust at that point. But you can have 3 core players right there between Masyn Winn, who's a unique core player because he's not like a middle of the order bat. Like, I don't think there's a world where you want him maybe in his best years as a top of the lineup hitter, but you're probably talking 6 hitter at best when you're a good team. But the defense is so good that you take that. JJ and Ivan are middle to top of the order bats, and then you fill out the rest from there. And I would rather be extending these guys into their primes and pass into free agent years than trying to do that with pitchers right now because of the volatility there. So then you kind of keep your young arms on cheap cost control deals with Liam Doyle, Quinn Matthews, guys like that when they come up, and you're paying them the league minimum in arbitration to save money, but you're putting that extra money in those guys early and getting the free agency trades. Well, bang, Cardinals are back. 2028, baby.
World Series or bust.
World Series or bust. You heard it here now. 2028 World Series or bust. But
oh boy.
Yeah, I just really wonder, like, if the Cardinals were to if they were to miss out on like any of these 3 players, which I don't think they should. I think like the Cardinals have been really cautious about extensions ever since like the Carp deal and the DeYoung deal, like, really stick out to me as extensions that the Cardinals regretted later on, even though neither of them were that big a deal. And they've been super conservative in that realm since then. And they've missed out on like plenty of interesting players, but I think these are the best candidates they've had since those guys. And to miss out on them would just be terrible. Also, let's say they don't end up keeping Herrera long-term. Like, how are you going to have someone better than Ivan Herrera? You know what I mean? Like, if Ivan Herrera was a free agent right now, he'd get paid. He would get paid as a guy that you could plug in behind the plate, who still has like solid defensive traits and could be a good defender, but who also is capable of running out, putting up like a 145 WRC plus. Like, that man would get absolutely paid. So I hope the Cardinals pay him. Masyn Winn, I think he could get Dansby Swanson money when he's a free agent. Like, that guy's going to get paid. And JJ Weatherholt has the talent to be a stud.
He easily gets Dansby Swanson money at this rate. Like,
yeah,
probably more.
All those guys are going to get paid. So the Cardinals should pay them now. Like, what do you think Masyn Winn, what would your extension for him look like? I'd be looking to get him for like 8 or 9 years. I'd want him long-term. I want him to be a Cardinal forever.
Yeah. I have to think about it. It's just hard to, I mean, I'd love 8 or 9 years, but I think it's hard to know. And also the player has a role in it too. Like, if Winn's like, we'll only do 6, like, okay, sure. Why not? Like, I'll get you in there. Maybe some opt-outs, that kind of stuff.
Those free agent years. Also, wouldn't it be so nice if for once the Cardinals had like an understanding of what their payroll was going to look like 2 years down the road? Wouldn't that be so nice?
Very helpful.
Wouldn't that be so nice as fans who follow the team to be able to forecast like, oh, that's the amount of money they have committed in 2028 versus where we are now, where there's 0 guaranteed money on the books in 2028, or where we've been in the past where the only guaranteed money is like whatever Michaelis extension and whatever like old pitcher you think they're going to have to pay $20 million to.
Yeah. And also too, like, personally, unless you're able to like get into the market and do something really interesting with a guy that doesn't get the right deal, and so Cease falls into your hands or Valdez or something like that, which I still doubt would happen, I would rather invest money in this year's payroll into paying the guys early so that you don't have to pay them later, and then you can go out and sign that superstar you need or that number 2 starter you need later down the line, instead of being like, oh, we're tight on payroll at that point, than to go out and sign like multiple guys that you're trying to flip at the deadline, where it's like that. I mean, would like to do that too, but I'd rather take like real flyers on those guys and go ahead and front load some money with Ivan and JJ and Masyn than to do it the opposite way.
Could you imagine if the Cardinals came out and they told us like in like 2 months from now, they're like, we've extended all 3 of these guys in like the span of a week, and then they front loaded all those deals, so there was like an extra $7 million a person committed to this year. which they could totally afford to do because the payroll is so low.
Exactly. Because then you'd be talking about
cheap years for them in like 2029, 2030, and you could actually fully go all in for once and then maybe backload those contracts, and you could actually see the Cardinals like have a championship caliber team.
Yep. You'd be talking about a team that could add when they're getting into contention, they would have those guys locked up, which obviously be paying more and more as you go on, even if you front load it more. But you'd be talking about having still $70 to $80 million of roster flexibility.
That's an ace, an MVP candidate hitter.
Plus, like, you're going to be moving. You're hoping that Reinel becomes a guy, and Baez or guys like that, and like you start to see the makings of some things. And so again, I think those are the only three. And then Brendan Donovan, I think, would be really interesting if you can get the right deal for him. But I think you prioritize that lower than those three guys at this point because they waited so long. And also Donovan doesn't have, like, I think his ceiling is lower than Winn, JJ, and Yvonne, and that's okay. But so Masyn. Wow. Yeah. Andrew, you're not Masyn Winn. Anything as Sandy used to be Sonny Gray. Anything else you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see extensions get done. I don't know how inclined this new front office will be to do that. I'm glad they cut bait with the guys that they cut bait with. Siani, whatever. Church is better anyway. Like, he's just a better version of Siani all around. Maybe fielding not as good, but I really don't care. And then like the rest of it, we'll see at the non-tender deadline who they choose to get rid of. I have a thank you graphic for like players that we really like, more special players. We're gonna then like Michael Siani, but I think John King will probably get one of those just for Sandy. Just because he likes it so much. And we'll see what other fat they trim throughout the non-tender deadline. And I hope moves get done quick. I hope something happens quickly so Bloom can show us, that he's not Mo. Not like make a move just for the sake of making a move, but like, Arenado, that's basically what they're doing anyway. They're going to trade him just to trade him, unfortunately, for all the people on social media who still are attached to him for some reason. Sorry. And if they sign Shota, I will have a crash out on stream. So there we go. We'll just get ahead of ourselves there. Like, they'll be wasting. They'll just be throwing money into a fire for Miles Michaelis again. Except this time he's Japanese and he throws left-handed.
So, man,
and he has a fun personality, I guess. That's what the people in Chicago say.
Hey, well, sign Anthony K. That's all.
Yep. I'm all for that. All those cheap NPB arms coming back.
Sign Shota.
Shota's getting a qualifying offer. If he turns that down, that means he's looking for more than the qualifying offer. Which
also you have to think of a draft pick. So no.
And to the Cubs.
Out on signing Shota, that'd be crazy.
If the Cardinals signed Shota, I don't even know what I would do. Like I would. It would be bad.
It'd be really funny to see him turn down the qualifying offer and then get less money than the qualifying offer. I think that's within the realm of possible.
I think he, like, a lot of these guys are. I mean, Yagi's not getting posted for another 2 years, so let's chill. But they should sign him when he's posted. Sure.
The Cardinals are never going to get elite end.
They're never going to get a Japanese player. They'll get guys like Miles Michaelis, but they're not going to get any of the
The Cardinals will never land elite end Japanese talent unless there's
never going to happen.
Unless there's an international draft, which I wouldn't hate.
Remember Lars Bar, who's going to recruit all his friends.
What a time. Now we're trying to recruit Lars to be healthy and move on. But move.
That's so tough.
Yeah.
Oh, Josh is muted.
Josh was muted there.
His mic isn't working.
He can't talk, so we just keep talking now, and Josh can't interject. Well, are there any other moves you see the Cardinals making this offseason, Andrew? And when Josh gets back in?
Yeah, I mean, free agency, I'm interested in seeing what they do. They're going to have to sign starters at some point. That's what Chaim said in his interview this week. But I'm really not interested in seeing what happens with free agency because I know the names that they sign and they get are not going to be names that excite the fans unless it's like a Framber Valdez to 1-year deal, like Jeff Jones said, which is like fine, I guess. Like I don't know.
I'd be really excited.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
But like again, you're gonna have to give up a draft pick for these guys. These are qualifying offer guys, right? Like I don't even know if that would be worth it.
Yeah, it's actually a good
like
point.
A guy that got traded at the deadline. Like, is there anybody like that? I'm sure there is. I'm just not thinking of. But like,
yeah, you're right. Even with those guys, I would definitely not sign on a 1-year deal, even with quality, because I'm guessing your high round, second round pick. That's safer bet to me than betting that Cease is going to be really good next year and you flip at the deadline for the kind of return you want. So I would rather just hold. But
did you guys talk about coaching and how Albert Pujols is homeless?
No, we have not talked about that yet.
No, I mean, yeah, but there's also no shot he's on the coaching staff next year. Yeah. He's not going to do that, and then I doubt Yachty is either.
Well, yeah.
Unless he wants to manage the Rockies, that would be fun. You know,
I can't believe it though. I'm shocked that
they got Peter Brand.
The Rockies. You know?
Did you see that after 10 years of losing in Cleveland, they're going to bring him to lose in Colorado?
Yeah, that's a great way to do things. Isn't he the guy that gave Deshaun Watson like a ton of money?
He's part of it, at least. So
yeah, like their strategy advisor or something.
Honestly, I think I would have liked them. Actually, never mind. I was gonna say I'd like the move better if they actually just hired Jonah Hill to be their president of baseball operations. But go watch Moneyball. Great movie. Anyways,
Money Mo.
I don't think Matt Holliday's ever gonna manage. He seems like he kind of realized what he was getting into and is like, I'm backing out.
It's hosting Cardinals territory now.
It's true. Cardinal territory. Anyways,
exciting part of the coaching staff. It would have been so fun.
Yeah. Anyways, we appreciate the support as always. Hopefully we'll have some more news to talk about soon. There's been some trickles out about some types of guys the Cardinals would target, but at this point, like the GM meeting's happening soon will be a big instigator of that kind of stuff. It feels like that's when you really start to hear what teams are really targeting and looking for. The Cardinals will start to become a little bit clearer on things, but also just position there in this offseason. A lot of it's probably going to be a little bit reactionary. So it's a lot of the market coming to them rather than them necessarily setting the market, which is okay. But I think even soon it might be nice for us, maybe on Sunday, assuming there's no news, maybe we can get into some names that we think would maybe look at different names that are potentially available in the free agent market or trades if we want to too. So if you guys have any names you'd like us to talk about the potential of them going after, like one I'm already like circling in pen is like Dustin May. I think would be really interesting if you can get him on the right kind of deal. I'm not saying he's a good player, but like I'd rather bet on that kind of stuff and see what happens than go after the Kyle Gibson type. Like, why not? But if you guys have names you want us to talk about, like Lucas Giolito's thrown in there, we can talk about that kind of name. Let us know. We'll talk about it in a future episode. But as always, appreciate the support on the podcast. Like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a ton. Make sure you go check out 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Sinisi.